Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be running you through 10 spicy romances I feel like you need to pick up ASAP. This is going to be a replacement for my monthly reading wrap-up videos. Honestly, I got really burnt out on doing those sorts of videos. Last year, I was mostly talking about books that I hadn't discussed previously in videos, and it basically left me with a bunch of 2-star reads to talk to you about every month, and it was draining, honestly. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm always gonna be honest with you here on my channel. I like to talk about things I like, and I needed a change. So I'm gonna be doing these videos every couple of months, giving you a roundup of the romances that I read, that I really enjoyed, and that I think you need to pick up. So I'm really excited to run you through all 10 of these books. Not gonna be a perfect 10, I'm sure, every time, but just happened to work out this month. So let me go ahead and walk you through the 10 romances that I think you need to read very soon. First up is one that I almost hesitated putting on this list because this is the only book I believe that is not a 4 or a 5-star read from me. That being said, it's a book that I have reread a couple of times because there's just something about it that keeps drawing me in and it steals you away. This is a book that I think I got off of the recommendation of TikTok. I don't normally get my book recommendations from TikTok, but this one, I don't know, there's something about it. I wanted a quick, easy read, and this one really provided. So this book's about our two main characters, Kennedy and Coulson. Kennedy at the start of the book is taking over a bar from her grandmother. She's really excited to be doing this. It's something that she knew was going to happen, and she wants to run like kind of a tight ship, but that kind of becomes complicated when her boyfriend's little brother comes back to town. He's always been like the hotter of the two, the one that all of the women are like chasing after. His name is Coulson. He is determined to win Kennedy back because we find out really quickly in the book that Dax essentially stole the heroine away from our hero, or like he's the older brother, he's the one that's like more age appropriate, I guess, for our heroine. I think Coulson is like 2 or 3 years younger than her. The book is basically these two brothers like fighting over one girl, which I personally really like. There's something really satisfying when you're reading a book where two men are just absolutely obsessed with the heroine, and you're obviously rooting for the younger brother the majority of the book because he seems to have like the purer intentions. It's definitely over dramatic, and that's why I didn't give this book 4 or 5 stars. Normally I would say like melodrama doesn't stop me from giving a book 5 stars, but I think this one, like the conflict drags out a little bit too long, but I just like how persistent the hero was. I don't think he's gonna be for everyone, certainly, but like he definitely was for me. He was someone that I really fucked with. So if you're looking for something like easy breezy or you're in a reading slump, I think this might break you out of a slump. It is a full-length novel, but it kind of read quickly even though the conflict was a little too drawn out, so I would recommend this one. I thought it was fun, and I feel like I've never heard people talking about this author, so it might be a nice way to like get you to read a new author that you've never tried before. So number 1, stealing you away. Pick it up, it's fun, it's a good time. Maybe you'll pick it up and think it's absolutely insane, but I personally really liked it. Next up, we have one that I like and I gave 5 stars to. It was just a fantastic read all around, a book that I think a lot of y'all will maybe enjoy. Ignite by Melanie Harlow. This is, I believe, like the 5th book in the Cloverleaf Farm series. All of the books are standalone, so you can totally read them on their own. I had only read the first book in the series prior to reading this one. It did give me a little bit of context, which was nice, but these are small town romances, usually with like single dad heroes or grumpy heroes. I don't know, they're very tropey. They're so fun. Melanie Harlow, I think, is a fantastic writer, and she makes really simple stories feel really emotionally impactful. So Ignite is about our main character, Dex, not to be confused with the boyfriend from the last book, Dax. Dex is a single father firefighter. In this story, unlike in Irresistible, which is the first book that I read in the series, Dex is still very much in contact with his daughter's mother. He is dealing with his ex kind of throughout the story, which kind of adds a complicated layer to it, but he is basically just trying to live his life, not trying to get into any sort of romantic entanglement because of the lack of success, shall we say, that he had with his first relationship. I think he was married to his children's mom at one point. But things get complicated when Dex moves into his own like apartment or townhouse next to Winnie. And Winnie is such a delightful heroine. She is really bright and sunny and cheery without being irritating. This is definitely a grumpy sunshine, so if you like that, you'll definitely like this book. She is someone who falls really easily for men. She's not someone who's like trying to kind of fight off romantic feelings. She definitely dives in deep too quickly. And her last relationship, I think it was like an engagement, crashed and burned, and so she's now kind of swearing off relationships for a year just so she can actually like take a step back and maybe evaluate relationships when she gets into them, like being smarter about the things that she is doing. You know, obviously her plans are foiled when she meets Dex and his delightful daughters, and yeah, the romance is just really fun. I liked the grumpy sunshine. I feel like the sexual tension in this book particularly was really good. I think that's important to me. Like, if you're gonna have hookups early on in the book, or the hookups are going to be what brings the two characters together, I still need there to be enough sexual tension there for me to care, and there definitely was in this book. I was really rooting for them, and also the scenes were just hot. They weren't like particularly taboo, shall we say, but I just really liked seeing these two together. So I think if you're looking for a sweet single dad grumpy sunshine romance, you should pick up Ignite. It's a really fun book, and I think it actually would be a good entry point into Melanie Harlow's Cloverleaf Farm series. So pick it up. It was a good time. Next up, we have one of two Liz Tomford books on this list. Mile High was the first one that I read, and I'll talk about The Right Move later on in this video. These books are mostly in chronological order, though the last one that I'm going to be talking about is my favorite book of all of these. So just a heads up, you want to stay around the whole time. You want to stick around for this entire video. So Mile High by Liz Tomford is about our two main characters, Xanders and Stevie. Stevie is a flight attendant, and she's kind of trying to figure out her life at this point, trying to figure out what her passions are. She doesn't think that being a flight attendant is necessarily her life's passion, but it's just kind of a job that she's taking to kind of pass the time. She's crashing with her brother right now in his apartment. He's actually an NBA player, and she is a flight attendant on private flights for hockey players, for like this one particular hockey team in Chicago. And she ends up coming into contact with Xanders, who is the kind of bad boy of this particular hockey team, but there's more than meets the eye with him. He definitely has some trauma in his past, some things he's working through, and Stevie does as well. Her family is not perfect, and she definitely has kind of a complicated relationship with her mom and her body as a result. I think what I liked so much about this story is that it took really familiar tropes or familiar archetypes of characters and really turned them on their heads. I don't normally fuck with heroes that are playboys, shall we say. It's not normally a favorite for me, but I liked that Xanders had some things inside of him that were kind of causing him to come off that way. And I also liked that he tried to kind of fight against that throughout the story. He did decide pretty early on, he was like, I don't want to be viewed this way anymore, and I want to fight this. There's some reasons why that's kind of complicated throughout the story, but each of the characters' emotions and the things that they wanted out of life felt so real to me, and I think that's something that Liz Tomford does so well. I will say this book is very long, which is something that was a little off-putting to me in this particular instance. I think this book is the same length as the second book in the series, which I liked a little bit more. And in that one, I feel like I didn't notice the page length as much. This one, I did notice the page length a little bit too much or too often, I guess. So that's the reason I gave this book 4 stars instead of 5, but I really do think that Liz Tomford is one of those authors that I'm always going to keep an eye out for now. I mean, her stuff is just so good. It's so different and so emotional compared to a lot of the romances that I pick up. Definitely different than like A Steal You Away, which I talked about first, but yeah, you definitely need to pick this book up. Next up is another 4-star read for me, a book that came heavily recommended by y'all. I actually read this one for my Reading My Subscribers Favorites of 2022 video, and it is Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. This book is one that definitely took me by surprise. I didn't know what to expect going into it. It was kind of pitched to me as a friends to lovers thing. Our heroine's a comedian, and so I just didn't really know what to expect. And I will say tonally and just like the vibe of the story is really unlike anything that I've ever read before, which is kind of why I'm adding it to this list. It's not like an all-time favorite at this point, but I definitely have, again, my eye out for this author at this point. Like, I want to read more of her stuff. I know she has some other books, so let's talk about Funny Feelings. This book's about our two main characters, Meyer and Farley. Farley is an aspiring comedian, which is something I've never read in romance before, and she's trying to really make a name for herself. In doing so, she has a manager named Meyer, who she like comes in contact with. Like, you learn the backstory in the book, so I don't want to spoil that for you, but they kind of strike up this friendship. He helps her professionally, and you can tell both of these characters really early on have had romantic feelings for each other, either in the present or the past, and that proves to be a challenge for both characters when they are forced into sort of a fake dating situation to further Farley's career. Essentially, she's going to be going on tour with a couple of other like really famous female comedians, and by having a boyfriend or having someone on her arm, it'll probably generate some sort of like good publicity for her. So she needs to fake date someone, and who better to fake date than her manager, Meyer. So this book is about their fake dating relationship as they try to like fight their real feelings that they have for each other. I really liked this book. I thought it was really charming, and I think for me the thing that really sold it was the daughter of Meyer. She is deaf. She provides so much comedy to the story. Absolutely loved the inclusion of a deaf character, and also just like, it was just a fun character. I really like when kids are used in stories to, again, provide like some sort of comedic relief or bring two characters together, which is definitely what the daughter in the story did. This is one I will say that I read when I was kind of in like a weird place. As I was reading a lot of the books for the video where I read subscriber favorites, I was not having the best time. So I feel like this book definitely could benefit from a reread, which is definitely what I'm going to be doing sometime in the near future. But I still gave this book 4 stars. I still really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of y'all would like it as well. Again, pick this one up. I'll leave links actually to all of these in the description down below if you want to just go on Amazon and get them from KU. I think most of these are KU romances, so again, links in the description. I do get a small kickback if you click the links in the description, just for full transparency, but I'm mostly doing that for your own convenience. All right, next, talk about a 5-star read. I have it in my hands right here. I bought a copy of this book after I read it because I enjoyed it so much. In a Jam by Kate Canterbury is a book that was highly recommended to me, but I kind of kept putting off because as cute as this cover is, I feel like it didn't really tell me what the story was going to be. I didn't know tonally what it was going to be like. Now that I've read it, I appreciate everything that this book did. It was emotional, it was sexy, and it had a hero that I think a lot of y'all would love and would make you swoon. So this book's about our two main characters, Shay and Noah. Shay is our female main character and Noah is our male main character. At the beginning of the story, we see Shay unfortunately getting left at the altar by a man she's supposed to marry, and she is completely heartbroken at this. She really thought she was going to marry this man and like spend her life with him, but she kind of picks herself up by the bootstraps and is going to just continue on with her life, do what she's got to do, until one day she is reached out to by an attorney who is like, hey, step great grandmother or something like that. I don't know the actual relation, but definitely a step something. Like, let's just go with step grandmother. Step grandmother has left you the family tulip farm, I believe it's a tulip farm, and you can go and claim your inheritance. You can live in the house at the farm if you would like, but you have to live there for a year, and you also have to get married to kind of claim this inheritance past a year. Shay needs a change of pace, so she is willing to go to the farm and kind of like make the best of her situation, kind of just get out of the town that she has been in for quite a while and, you know, escape her failed relationship. And when she's there, she meets up with a guy she went to high school with named Noah, and Noah is someone who I think like gave her rides to school every once in a while. They didn't have like the deepest friendship ever, but they definitely like knew each other and were friends, and he's kind of bitter at the beginning of the story, and we don't exactly know why, but we find out through the course of the story. And there's also, again, like a charming child to bring these two together. I loved the little girl in the story. Her name is Jenny, and she is the niece, I believe, of Noah. She provides a lot of comic relief in the story and again brings these two together because Shay is a kindergarten teacher and she is going to tutor Noah's niece so that she can be more prepped for first grade or something like that, so she can pass kindergarten. And of course we have the, you know, added complication of Shay needing someone to marry her. I don't think I can put into words how fantastic this book is. I think if you're someone who likes the mutual pining trope as much as I do, you will really, really love this. It has a little bit of a tinge of Friends to Lovers, but I think it's a book that even people who don't like that trope would really enjoy. This is just one of those books that I would recommend to almost anyone. I really liked it. I thought it had just enough emotion, just enough spice, and I really like what the hero calls our heroine in this book. Not gonna spoil it, but it is so fucking charming. You gotta pick this up. I give this book 5 stars. I, again, immediately picked up my own physical copy of it, which means a lot in my opinion. Like, if I picked up a physical copy, I really liked the book, so pick it up. You need it in your life. Next up, we have a book that I actually reread for a video, where I reread my like first 5-star romances ever, Managed by Kristen Callahan. This is a book that I wanted to recommend to you because it's a book that is sort of low stakes, low tension, low angst, still somehow manages to be really sexy and really fun. The way that Kristen Callahan writes her banter between her characters, I think really sets her apart from other authors, and I just think that the setup of this book is really fun. So it's about our two main characters, Gabriel and Sophie, and they meet on a, is it transatlantic flight from the US to London. She is going to the UK for a job interview. We don't really know why Gabriel is returning back to the UK. I think for work or something is what he says. And we find out once they land that they have more in common than they thought. But on the flight, we really get to see their relationship start to blossom and kind of see the banter relationship between the two of them. He's really scared of flying. She just likes to needle him because he's kind of a grump at the beginning. Opening of this book is one of my favorite openings of romance in general. I laughed and I giggled even the second time reading this book. I really didn't think very many of my favorite 5-star romances from yesteryear, from 2017, would hold up, but this one totally does. I really love this book. It is about a manager of a band, I should say. Gabriel is a manager of a band, so there is sort of that like rock star romance vibe to it, but if you are kind of turned off by rock star romances, I also don't think you would hate this, because he's not like, you know, the lead singer of a band with like a lot of angst and shit. It's a good book. I really liked it. I think this one really does hold up. The entire VIP series from Kristen Callahan is just a really fun one in general. You do want a like classic rock star romance, Idol. The first one in the series is really fun as well, but this is the 5-star read of the series for me, and I love it. You gotta pick it up. All right, next is a book that I was really late to the party on, a book that I know a lot of people really enjoy, a series that I know that a lot of people enjoy. Blockshot by Kennedy Ryan. I actually finished off this series this month. I read Hookshot as well, which I didn't love quite as much, which is why it's not on this list, but Blockshot really surprised me. I really, really enjoyed this book. This book's about our two main characters, Jared and Banner. Banner's our heroine, Jared is our hero, and at the start of the story, we get to see how they were in college. They have this like friendship that is really wholesome, but some shit goes awry pretty quickly, and we see why this is going to be an enemies to lovers story. Jared does some stuff that is kind of fucked up to Banner, or there's kind of a misunderstanding, I guess you could say, about the things that he has done to our heroine, and it sets us up for a really juicy, like, enemies to lovers sort of romance. And then skip to present day, which is, I think, like 20% into this book, and we have Jared and Banner coming back into each other's lives because they are both sports agents, and they're sort of competing for a couple of the same athletes throughout the story, and having to, like, both fight against each other for those clients and then also work together because some of their individual clients have some needs that will be solved by them working together. It's sort of like a charity event they have to kind of put on together. There's a lot of reasons for these two to come into contact, and Jared has always had a thing for Banner. Just seeing how he longs for her and really wants to get with her kind of no matter the circumstance, how he's having to fight some demons as well throughout the story. It's just a really fun book. I thought this was going to be like really hard-hitting emotional because a lot of Kennedy Ryan stuff is, and I'm not saying this isn't, but this is kind of more like messy melodrama, which is my kind of thing, and I think that's why I like this book most out of all of the books in the series. I will say trigger, sort of. I don't know if this is like a content warning or a trigger for some people, but there is cheating in this book that happens, and I do feel like I need to warn you because it is not handled the best, and that's for a reason. It's to create drama and to create mess, I think, and also to show you that characters are complex and do make mistakes. Banner ends up cheating on her boyfriend slash fiance with Jared in the book. So if that's something that's like definitely a no for you, I would stay away from this book. But if you were open to reading that trope and you are also someone who really, again, wants to like see people make mistakes and then learn from them, I really like this book. I feel like I'm not selling this one very well. I feel like I didn't really set it up very well at all, but I really like it. Oh, added bonus for this book, fucking love Jared as a hero, even though he does kind of like do some questionable shit morally. He is obsessed with our heroine, not only physically, but he is also obsessed with her mind. He thinks she is incredibly intelligent, and he brings that up so often. Like, even when she is beating him at his own games, and getting athletes that he wants for his own, he's just in awe of how fucking smart she is, and I love that. Like, that is what I want from a romance hero. I want him to love her body and love her physicality, but also love her mind. Jared definitely does. So anyway, I will stop rambling about this one. You gotta pick it up. 5 stars, amazing, incredible. It's Kennedy Ryan, come on. Next up, another book that I, again, purchased right after reading because it was just so good. Elsie Silver, Powerless. This book is so good. I love this entire series. I think if you are someone who likes a small town romance, you like heroes that are very distinctive and heroines who are really strong and sassy, you've got to pick up all of Elsie Silver's books. Heartless, Flawless, Powerless, all of them are good. This is the 3rd book in the Chestnut Spring series, and it follows our 2 main characters, Jasper and Sloane. Jasper is a hockey player who is dealing with a lot emotionally as some of the kind of plot twists happen in this book. Also kind of dealing with the fact that his best friend is marrying a man that he does not think will treat her very well, and Sloane is kind of just like following along with what her parents want for her. They want her to marry a really wealthy man who is not necessarily going to treat her right. Quickly, again, that is resolved. We have Jasper basically saving Sloane from her wedding day, and they kind of ride off into the sunset together, or do they? They have to like work through a lot throughout the course of the story. We have Jasper's trauma that kind of impacts the way they interact with each other. Sloane feels burned by the fact that she has gone after Jasper in the past, and he has not really like returned those same feelings. It is definitely an angsty romance. It's definitely tension filled. I think if you are someone who likes that sort of thing, like me, you would really enjoy this book. I don't feel like it was melodramatic in any way, and this is definitely a very slice of life romance. So I think if you're someone who doesn't necessarily want a ton of like external plot twists and stuff like that, you'll like this book. There is like a bed sharing moment. They go on kind of like a road trip together. It was just a really, really good book. This is not a favorite of the 3 books, but it's one that I still absolutely adored and still one that I would highly recommend. I would also really recommend Heartless. That one's my favorite, but this one's really good as well. All right, my camera is dying, so hopefully I can power through these last 2 books very quickly. Let's do it. The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren is a reread for me. This is an enemies to lovers relationship between Olive and Ethan. So many of y'all I know have read this book. It's just the classic enemies to lovers book that everyone recommends other than The Hating Game, and it's still really fucking good. I gave it 4 stars the first time I read it, 5 stars the second time around, because there's just not very many books that I think have this quality banter. I don't think the relationship is like the most well-rounded, the most developed ever, but I really liked it. I thought the 3rd act conflict was original. I know some people hate it, but I thought it was a really original 3rd act conflict. I just liked it. I had such a good time with this book, and sometimes you don't need books to be the swooniest if it's a good time, and this one was a good time. So pick it up if you haven't already. If you've been living under a rock, pick this book up. And then lastly, Let's talk about The Right Move by Liz Tomford. This book, I don't do like anything more than 5 stars. I know my friend Crystal does, but if I did do more than 5-star ratings, this would be a 6-star romance. The Right Move by Liz Tomford is one of the best books I've ever read, one of the best romances I've ever read, and is a book that will definitely make it on my top romances of 2023. Like, it is just so fucking good. Okay, this book follows our 2 main characters, Indy and Ryan. Ryan is the NBA player from the first book, the brother of Stevie, and he is dealing with a lot emotionally. Again, why are all these men dealing with things emotionally? I think maybe because it makes for a compelling romance. I don't know. But we have Ryan, and he is dealing with a lot, you know, emotionally, again, like very much going through it. And he's not really looking for a roommate, but unfortunately he has to house his sister's best friend, Indy, because she has gotten out of a really terrible relationship. Not a terrible relationship. She thought this guy was going to be her forever, going to be her partner, but he ends up cheating on her. In the last book, we know that this happened, and she needs a place to live, so she ends up living with Ryan, who again doesn't really want a roommate, through a bunch of different circumstances. You know, you've got the forced proximity, you've got fake dating because Ryan needs help in his career, furthering his career, so he enlists the help of Indy, his roommate, to like fake date him. There's not words that I could put to this story to like convince you why this is so amazing, but I can say every person that I've seen read this book has given it 5 stars. It is that good. The emotions that this author is able to write, it's mind-blowing to me. I felt so much for these characters, even with such a simple setup and a simple premise and simple tropes. I was just able to care so much for these characters. I also liked the inclusion of Indy's fertility struggle. That was something that I feel like is just never really included in books, and that definitely, I guess, colors some of her actions throughout the course of the story. And also Ryan and his like trauma from past relationships. It's just so fucking good. I don't know how many times I can say it. You have to pick up this book. I don't gush very often, but if there's one thing you do, please pick up The Right Move by Liz Tomford. It's just everything to me. Okay, all right, so my camera did die. I'm here to do the conclusion of this video, the outro, if you will. I had such a fun time filming this video. It is just fun to sit down for 30 minutes and gush about the books that I love and that I have been loving, and I'm glad that this is going to be replacing wrap-up videos. Hopefully y'all aren't too sad about the fact that those are going away. I think this is just like a more exciting format anyway. But again, thanks so much for watching this video. I'll leave links in the description down below for all of the books that I talked about. Comments, I guess, let me know your favorite romance that you read over the past couple of months. I would love to know. Always looking for new things to pick up, but I love y'all so much. Thanks so much for watching this video, and until next time.